Critic will never go away because it's just part of being human, because it's how fear tries to keep us alive. But if we're going to grow, we have to learn to turn that inner critic into a barely audible whisper.
Welcome to This Empty Nest Life. Join Jay Ramsden as he leads you on a transformative journey through the uncharted seas of midlife and empty nesting. If you're ready to embark on this new adventure and redefine your future, you're in the right place. Here's your host, the Empty Nest Coach, Jay Ramsden.
Hey there, my Empty Nest friends. On today's episode, we're digging into an important topic for the men in your life. Whether that's your partner, your son, your brother, your dad, or even yourself, we're digging into why so many men feel stuck but don't want to talk about it. My friends, if you know, you know. Join me in this conversation is John Mylant, who helps men struggling with self-doubt, battling their inner critic, and those always seeming to be struggling with inaction in their lives. John, welcome to This Empty Nest Life.
Thank you very much.
So good to see you. I'm curious. I think June was Men's Mental Health Month. And so folks, get into that and start sharing information about it. And we hear a lot of people saying, well, the man in my life doesn't, or my dad, my brother, my uncle, whoever it may be, they don't talk about feelings and feeling stuck. But why do you think, in your experience, this is something you do regularly, why do you think so many men feel stuck but don't talk about it?
Well, it's kind of bizarre. The idea of feeling stuck usually comes because there's a lack of clarity in where they want to go and what they want to accomplish. And inside they may know, but on the outside, there's a disconnect between what they're doing and what they really want on the inside. So they're doing things and they're busy, but what's really hard is they're caught up in the rat race, honestly. They're busy, but they're not productive. And when we talk about productivity, we're talking about just going in the direction that they really want to go inside. So because of that, they can be very active, but they still just feel stuck. And what does that mean? Well, it means if you ask somebody, it's like, well, I'm just not getting where I want to go. They don't necessarily have to be stationary, but they're moving, they're working hard, and they're buzzing, but everything is just out of reach. And it's always just out of reach. So they're stuck.
What I'm hearing you say, Rusty, things are out of reach, but I also heard you say that they aren't getting or what they're going after what they really want on the inside. How do those two things play together? I'm not getting what I want, but on the inside, but I'm also stuck on the outside. Tell me more about how those two things fit together.
And this is what's very important to teach men so that we understand how we operate. So let me back up a little bit. Let's talk about two primordial influences in our life. They both have purpose. They're not bad. One is fear and one is love. Okay? Fear has a purpose. Fear's purpose is to keep us alive. I mean, think about it. 10 years ago, when you were a caveman, you'd wake up in the morning, you walk outside your cave. The first thing you do before you pick up the paper is you look around and make sure there's no saber-toothed tiger there to eat you because you want to stay alive. So, fear has a purpose. We're always hesitant, negative, because we want to be alive. And what fear does for us today, it helps us build the world we live in. It keeps us safe. The world we all live in, our own little worlds, we're familiar with it, we're in control of it, and we're content in it. And that's what fear does. Fear teaches us to build our limiting beliefs and build up our walls around us so that we feel safe and secure in our own little worlds. Whether it's for the better or worse, we all build our own little worlds. Now, love.
Okay, love.
Love does something different. Love's purpose is to have us grow. Herein lies a problem that a lot of us don't know as men. Fear takes place at a subconscious level. There's no effort in it. There's no focus. It's how we exist. We rarely think about it. We build habits and routines and all these types of things without even think about it, just to build our worlds. Okay, so then here comes John. One point, I got these big walls around my world, and I kind of look up one day at this vast ocean of emptiness out there, and I said, man, I wonder if there's something else besides just this world I live in. I want to grow. Well, anything outside that world is a threat. That's how fear looks at it, because he just wants to keep us alive. So when we look outside that world to see if we can move our walls out a little bit, fear is going to work overtime, and I'll explain how it works. Fear works overtime to keep us in our world. It's like, don't do that. And it's always subtle, little things we don't think about. I want to start making phone calls like I never did before for my work, something new. If it's new, it's outside my world. So it's a threat. So I decide I'm going to do it at 1:00. And this little voice inside me that I don't even think about says, oh, John, you worked so hard this morning. Why don't you do this tomorrow? What's one day going to matter, right? It's not, John, stop. It's the things to get us to either do maybe just a little, but not too much, or do it another time because this is coming up, or this is too important, or maybe you're tired and you should rest, or this thing's coming on TV now and it may not be on again. All these little things to stop us from moving that wall out just a little bit. And again, it's not bad. It's protection is all it is. This is how we all function as human beings.
I love
right?
that.
Now, how does it?
Yeah, because it's so important.
Yes.
To get outside your comfort zone. We talk about that a lot on this show. And I think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Is like that comfort zone, even if it seems simple, pick up the phone and make some phone calls tomorrow. Your brain is like, simple. Yeah, your brain's like, that's not something I want to do because there's something on the other end of that could scare me or harm me. Is that fair?
Yes. Yes. Now, how does fear manifest in our lives? Well, it starts with the foundation to all of our fear manifesting, to understand it, is our inner critic. Who is the inner critic? He's the one that cuts us down. Don't do that. What if these other people are looking? What are they going to say? Don't put that up on social media. What if someone says something negative about it? Do you want to deal with that? I mean, this is the inner critic. And when we entertain, and remember, this is done at a subconscious level. We don't consciously think about it. But when we entertain what the inner critic is saying, it leads us to self-doubt. So we doubt ourselves. If we're doubting ourselves, that's going to lead to indecisiveness. Why? Because we're not going to know if we're making the right decision. Should I do this? Or should I do this? And when we're indecisive, that leads right up to being inconsistent in our actions, right? Now, here's where the men come in, Jay. When we're inconsistent in our actions, success never happens because success takes momentum of doing the same thing over and over and over. And when no momentum is developed, you can't have success. And we're always working twice as hard because when you were little, do you remember at the playgrounds you had those little merry-go-rounds that people would jump on and you push it? That centrifugal force. I remember when I was a little kid, my friends jumped on it, and man, I had to take two hands in that thing, plant my feet in the ground and just really push it really hard the first couple times around, right?
Yeah. Well, it was fantastic. Get it started.
Yes, to get it started. And when we don't develop momentum, we're always pushing super hard to get something going. But success is not hard. Success, I can stand next to that thing, 2 fingers, bing, 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 just to keep it going because momentum has it going already. But we're always in a start mode because we never develop the momentum because of our inconsistency, because fear is doing a good job.
Yes, and
keeping us alive.
Yeah, and folks, if you're listening, like John does work with men, but what he's talking about is true for humans. This is everybody,
Yes.
not just
Yes, it
men.
is.
It's men and women. It's that struggle of like, oh, I got to work out this morning, and oh, well, I didn't put the clothes out. I didn't put the shoes out. You know what? Tomorrow, I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day. Tomorrow, I'll put the clothes out. That'll be the first step. And so I just want to make it clear, like, yes, this topic is for men. We said that at the beginning, but it's really not. It's for everybody who's listening, because we've all experienced this in our own way. And John, I think this is why you're here today, is like you've experienced this in your own life, right?
Yeah, for years. In fact, nobody knows about this. I mean, well, they do now. Nobody knew about this. It was my own little war that I was going through. On the inside, I always felt like a failure. Inner critic. Okay, I didn't know anything about this at the time, but so I would live my life, and I met my wife, got married, raised 3 good kids, but it doesn't matter how well I did. My kids grew up really good. I made 6 figures, but it doesn't matter how good I did or what I tried to do. And I built a number of businesses. I always, on the inside, and again, this was my war, nobody knew it, I always felt like a failure. It's like success was just always out of my reach. Other people were successful. I never was. No matter how hard I worked, I always felt like a failure. So I never got to enjoy life. I was always, oh man, I wish I could see like the other people were. I never could see myself as successful because I didn't understand myself and how I operated.
So what would, back then or even now, what does success look like for somebody who knows how to handle their inner critic?
Well, first you have to live mindfully so that you're aware of what's going on. That's the foundation to everything. Without getting into the details, you could ask me the question and I'll answer it. But when we learn to silence the inner critic, okay. Now remember, this is just being human. We all have it. We all deal with it. The critic will never go away because it's just part of being human, because it's how fear tries to keep us alive. Okay, but if we're going to grow, we have to learn to turn that inner critic into a barely audible whisper. That's what we've got to do. So if the inner critic is not influencing and we're not entertaining its message anymore, self-doubt has no ability to grow. And what can grow in its place? Well, now we can choose love. Okay, just because we silence a critic, this has to be chosen. It doesn't happen automatically. Allowing love is a conscious decision. That's where growth takes place, because we choose to grow. We can choose to grow confidence where self-doubt was. And when we choose to grow confidence, we don't have to do anything else. Indecisiveness will turn by nature into decisiveness. And when we're decisive now, we're going to be consistent in our actions. You don't have to fight inconsistency. We will by nature become consistent. And now when we're consistent, it's going to start to develop momentum. And that's how success starts taking place in our life, whether it's just making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or building a multi-million-dollar business. Everything works the same. That is how we succeed. Then it's just the choice. We're going to learn. We're going to make the choice to grow. Now we just make the choice. What do we want to do? Because the confidence is there, because we've chosen to allow confidence to grow, and we are keeping that inner critic at a low, barely audible whisper.
Okay. So you talked about fear and love, and I think most people know, okay, fear, I get that. That's where our limiting beliefs come from. And I call those the contractions of our life. I don't, I shouldn't, I won't, I can't, I wouldn't. Right? The contractions of our life are what limiting beliefs are. That's how they start, if for folks are wondering what those are. But then the love piece, I think people may hear, oh, fear and love, and think love, I have to have love in my life. But I think you're saying more, there's love turned inward to yourself. Is that fair, or? let's dive into that a little bit, because I want to make sure people understand what you mean when you say fear and
where fear is natural because it keeps us alive at a subconscious level. Okay. Love takes time, focus, and energy. What fear doesn't.
Yeah. Fear.
You ever wonder why you ever wonder why you naturally gravitate toward negative stuff? I mean, a lot of good things happen, but when that one tragic accident happens or that gossip starts, boy, those ears grow big. That's a natural response because fear is negative. We don't have to think about it. We're just going to gravitate toward it. Why do you think most political campaigns are negative? Because people gravitate by nature toward that stuff. Low energy, no effort. You always hear about we choose the path of least resistance. We do. It's a natural instinct in humans. But love is something that takes work. We have to choose it. So it takes time, energy, and focus. Growing is hard work. It's not easy.
Yeah. So I like to think of it as like it's people say the difference between simple and easy, right?
Okay, that's a good.
Yeah, it's like growing is easy, but it's not simple, right? Yeah, so it's like I like to have my folks who are listening think about it as like we talk about stuff being, this thing is easy. We can make this happen. That's easy, but it's not always simple because it involves time and energy. It involves work, which I love you talk about bringing those pieces in. And so I think that's an important distinction to make for people who are listening, like the audience is saying, oh, okay, now I get it. Fear keeps me safe and love is going to take time, energy, and work to make it happen to help me move forward.
Yes.
Yeah. So you talk a little bit about reclaiming, helping people reclaim their purpose with courage and clarity. And I think that is such an important topic for people who are empty nesting. And for me, empty nesting isn't just a moment in time. It's your life from about 45 to 65. That's what I call empty nesting. Those are the timeline, if you will. And the reclaiming purpose is huge because parents get so invested in their kids and thinking that's their purpose. So tell me more about how you help people reclaim their purpose, because I think it's important for people to understand, like, this is something you can do. You don't have to feel lost at this stage in life.
No, and I went through this myself. I had my journey where, why am I here? What is my purpose? Through that time of my life, just like a lot of people do. And the one thing I try to teach people now, people describe this as a lot of different things, and I call it, there's a person inside us. This is not the inner critic now. This is the person that we know. We know our potential. As I can say, here I am in my present right here, but I know that this is where I can be if I want to. Maybe I'm here in the present, but in the future, this is where I can be. I call it world-class self. Oh. This is that part of us that guides us. Where do aha moments come from? That gut instinct you hear about, that little voice in your head, not the serial killer, but the other one that guides you a little bit every day. That is what I call the world-class self. Now, you hear all these terms depending on backgrounds, listen to the universe, Christianity, the spirit man. If you want to take it to that level, this is the person that talks directly to God on your behalf. That is you, your spirit man. If you learn to listen to that person on the inside, you're going to learn everything that you need to learn. How do you listen? Very simple. You just become 100% honest with yourself. And when you're honest this is between you, and nobody else will ever know this. But when you're honest with yourself, you have absolute clarity. It's in your self-dishonesty that you can't tell what to do. But when you're completely honest with yourself, you have absolute clarity, and you can ask the questions you need to ask and you'll find your answers if you listen. Sometimes right away, boom. Sometimes they'll come from different sources. You may be watching TV and listening to a dialogue on TV, and suddenly it's like, it's all talking to you about something. If you'll just learn to ask the questions, and then, I can't say the answers come right away because sometimes they don't. I'm trying to find an answer to a question. It could take a week sometimes. But I'll wake up in the morning and said, I asked this question, and I'm looking for this answer. And as long as I'm, again, the foundation to everything is just living mindfully. So that I'm aware today as I'm living my life that I did ask this question that's still unanswered. So as I live my life, I'm going to be aware and look for that answer. This is what people talk about all the time. Don't try to force things. It's not always about doing. It's about, vibrations or just listening to the universe, or, pray for something and look for God's direction. This is what it entails. And this is how we learn to find our answers. We have everything already. And I learned this. This is what changed my life around. Everything we have, everything we want to know and need, we already have.
Yeah, it's all what's inside of us. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
It's already there. When I was struggling to find my answers, I traveled. I went to different countries. I thought maybe if I become Mahatma Gandhi, or maybe if I do the Mother Teresa thing, I'll find my purpose. One day I was sitting in an orphanage in Spanish Town, Jamaica, holding an AIDS baby in my arms. And small little blue room, this little voice inside my head said, "This isn't it." And I had that same thing a number of times. And I said, okay, I got distraught again and went back home. And the one thing, Jay, that changed me, let me tell you what it was. I was watching YouTube, and I was watching a conference that Tony Robbins was leading. And he was standing, I won't draw this way out, but he was standing in the third row talking to this gentleman, probably late 20s. Evidently, this gentleman struggled with depression his whole life. And as he's looking at the audience, he says, I want to teach you guys something. This young man's been struggling his whole life, and watch this. So he instructs the young man. He says, close your eyes. And the young man closes his eyes, and he goes, okay, I want you to think. First, before we do anything, on the scale of 1 to 10, where are you in your depression right now? 10 is the worst. 1 is the best, where you don't have the depression. So this young man goes, I'm at about a 7. And Tony goes, okay, keep your eyes closed. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. I want you to think about the most incredible orgasm you ever had. You hear this little, laughing in the audience.
Chuckle in the audience, yeah.
Yeah, little chuckles. And, 5-10 seconds go by, and Tony goes, okay, you thinking about it? And the young man goes, yeah. And he goes, okay, where are you now on a scale of 1 to 10? And he goes, man, I'm at a 2. And people are going, oh, wow. And Tony goes, okay, everybody, wait, we're not done yet. So he instructs the young man. He says, okay, stop thinking about that. Now, I want you to think about the worst experience you have ever had in depression. And again, he gives him 5 to 10 seconds. Everything's quiet. You could hear a pin drop. And Tony goes, okay, where are you right now? And the guy goes, man, I'm at about a 9. Everything is just still in that room. Now, Tony talks to the guy for a couple seconds off the mic. The guy sits down. Tony goes back up to the front. And Jay, this is what changed my life. Tony looks at the audience and he goes, I want you guys to understand something. Here you have a young man that struggled with depression his whole life. And right in front of you, he went from a 7 to a 3, clearing up to a 9 in seconds, just by choice. And then here's what he said. And this was like an epiphany. An atom bomb went off inside my head. He said, everything you want is just a decision away.
Yeah,
I had traveled. I had traveled and I was looking for something. And at that moment, the reality of realities came that everything that I want, I already have. So I said, I'm going to be happy. And I was. And that was the start of me learning how I operate and understand as a person that changed my life. And this is what I try to teach other people, that everything you want, you already have. All you have to do is ask the questions.
So good. I love that.
And you will find your answers.
Yeah, it's all inside of us, right? You talked about the fear piece, and that's where the inner critic is born out of, and it shouts. But the love piece, it does whisper, like, you are made for more. Right? And so in this time, as like for me, from the people who listen to the show, they're parents who are struggling with empty nest and trying to figure out, okay, this is my empty nest life. This is what life is really like for me? Like, I've got to find a new purpose. I got to figure this out. Am I made for more, or am I just sitting here waiting for that engagement and that wedding and grandkids? Right. And that's what I try and have people understand is, like, you don't wait. You are made for more. Right. Don't wait for those things to happen. You're in control of everything. Those other things you're not in control of.
And usually, Jay, those answers we've known all along.
Oh, absolutely.
We think about it when we're little, we're trained by fear to build our walls, to protect ourselves. But before that, we've had all these dreams. I'm going to be this. I want to do this someday. And as we grow up, what do we think? Oh, the silliness of youth. But that's not the silliness of youth. That's us dreaming already, not understanding that fear is going to keep us alive before we can grow.
That's true. Oh, so true. And it's getting over that hurdle of being afraid. So in this journey for yourself, what's one thing you've learned about yourself?
That's a deep question. That's why I'm taking a second to answer it. I just don't want to throw something out. That I am as good as everybody else out there.
I love that, John. Yeah.
I work with people that make millions upon millions of dollars. And I work with people that make hundreds and tens of thousands of dollars. And one thing I've learned is it doesn't matter where somebody is status-wise. They struggle with the exact same thing that we all struggle with. We are all human. And it doesn't matter. We all struggle with the same thing. Now, everybody's struggle is different, but the struggles are the same. And we all have the same problems as people. It doesn't matter what our status is. People are people are people. And we all wrestle with the same thing. And I learned that I am as good or as bad as everybody else.
And that's such a wonderful realization. And once you realize that, then you can say, okay, here's something that's going to motivate me, right? When you see yourself as the same as everyone, like, this is just human nature. This is how our brains work. This is how we've evolved. We're all the same in that regard. Things, monetary things and personal things and cars and houses and all that. Like, okay, that does some have a separation for folks. Like, people see that as different. That person's better. That person's better. They have more. No, at the base, we're all the same. We all struggle with the same two things, is like the getting rid of the fear and falling in love with ourselves so that we can learn how to be made for more. And once you do that, I think that's where you find out, here's what's going to motivate me in my life. So what's the biggest motivator for you in life right now?
Before I answer that, can I bring something up that you just said I think is really important for our audience?
Sure.
When you talked about falling in love with yourself,
yes,
I think it's important to define that.
Okay.
Falling in love with yourself is just accepting who you are. Because, we all have the potential to be, we all know who we are on the inside. And that's who you are. And once you accept that and allow other people to see that person, that's when you know you've loved yourself.
Yes. When you can be transparent that this is me. This is who I am. This is how I live my life.
Exactly.
Leave it. but I love myself for how I operate. Knowing that
Exactly.
everybody else has the same two limiting factors in our lives, right? The inner critic, the self-sabotage, everybody goes through that. This is how I deal with it, right? This is how I am as a human being. And I think that's such a great point to make so that people understand, yes, it isn't, you don't love how perhaps you don't have to love how you look and all the things, but inside, like the core of your being, like love how you live your life. And if you don't, then there's something holding you back. Those limiting beliefs, the contractions, the I can't, I won't, I shouldn't, I don't, I couldn't. I think that's probably the one that holds people back the most. I can't, I couldn't do that.
Sounds like you had a lot of experience with that.
For sure. And that's why I have this show, is I want to help people live their best empty nest life. And that's why I've loved talking to you today, because it's that whole feeling of how do we get people to understand you can break the silence. You don't have to feel stuck, and particularly men. And while this topic is, we've talked a lot about helping men get over that hurdle. I think the next thing for us to talk about and dive into here for a few more minutes is what's been the most defining moment in your life over the past 12 months, based upon the work.
Sure. Learning how to help people see who they are and bring the ideas in their head to life. It's that whole idea of success. We have desires and dreams and ambitions. Everything's up here.
Yep, right in our brains.
Yeah, how do you take this picture you have in here and bring it so that you're literally living it like you see it? This is what I have over the last year. I don't want to say perfected, but pretty much almost have. I mean, I do it in my own life. I choose what I want and I bring it to life. And this is what I do with others now. I get to know them. I get to understand what they want, and I teach them how to bring to life what they want, just like I have done in my own life. And I continue to do. I have dreams and ambitions and things I haven't done yet that I'm planning to do, and slowly making the steps and fighting the good fight. My biggest battle, remember, we're all human, so it's not about getting rid of something, it's learning to manage something.
Love that.
My inner critic is probably the loudest at 2:00 in the morning.
It wakes you up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's when I'm trying to rest and I'm most vulnerable. So if I ever have to wrestle with something, it's usually in the middle of the night where something will get louder. And I go, okay, go sit on the couch, watch the Munsters. I'll make you some pizza. And I got to sleep. Leave me alone.
Yeah, it's an important point, too, about how our subconscious works at night. And you said, our brain likes to answer questions. And so that if you ask it a question at night that you want an answer to, it's going to go to work.
Yes.
It's going to go to
Unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah, unfortunately sometimes, but also fortunately sometimes, because, in the morning or the next morning or the day after, you'll wake up with the answer that you've been searching for.
Oh, aha moments. I remember those. Write them down, people. Write them down.
Definitely. John, before I let you go, I'm curious, sir. What's your life motto?
My life motto? Do you want it from my standpoint, just for me, or what I do with others?
Yeah, just for you as a human living in this world, and all the things you've learned about yourself through your journey. I'm sure you've landed on the life motto.
Sure.
What is it?
My life motto is live what's important to me.
Live what's important to me.
And that means, I've got people in my life, and I know the relationship I want to build with them, whether it's grandkids or somebody else. I know the things I want to do. I love what I do all the time. I wake up. Today is the only day that I have that I know I'm alive right now. So I live today, and I'm in the moment. I know, this time together is meaningful to me, and I'm aware of that. It's not just something I'm doing in the middle of the day. This is very important to me. And when this is over, there'll be other things that I'll be doing that will be important to me because I only have now. So even though I dream and plan for the future, I'm never not aware of I'm living right now and appreciating the connections and the conversation like we're having right now. This is really important to me because it's all I have.
Yeah, this moment in time.
Yes.
Is the most important moment in time because we're not guaranteed what comes next, which I think is why it's so important for people living in this emptiness life is to don't wait.
That's right, because there is nothing but now.
I love that. There is nothing but now. That could become the title of this episode.
Yes, if you can't enjoy now, you're not going to enjoy a future because there is no future. You're going to continue not enjoying now.
Love it. And I've thoroughly enjoyed now having this conversation with you because it is such an important one, not just for the men in my listeners' lives, but for them as well, to understand how we get unstuck. And especially as the kids leave home and move on, everything we talked about applies, folks. This is not just helping men get unstuck and being more successful in their business or starting a company or anything like that. Everything that John and I have talked about today works for you today in this moment for anything that you want to do. John, It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks, Jay. I had a really good time talking. That was neat.
Are you ready to start living and enjoying your empty nest years? If so, head over to jasonramsden.com and click Work With Me to get the conversation started. This Empty Nest Life is a production of Impact One Media, LLC, all rights reserved.